Hello, hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. How we doing? Connor, Sawyer, Dan, Stuart, Mickles. How are we today? We good? Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you are doing well. Um, yeah. All right. How are we today, everybody? Money, Shahash, Ghost, Arindam, Sean, Jimmy, RSFB, Alex, 50, Satyajit, Wyatt, Sawyer, Francis. Bruno, suspense is killing me. Just want to know. I know. This I gotta say, this leaderboard thing is a little funky to me because like especially as the video starts, you guys are chatting, and because it just is like a few different like um people to start, and like a few, like it takes three messages to be number one. It's just like three, two. Maybe they should do like 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes of it before the leaderboard becomes active, or like 10 minutes before the leaderboard becomes active, so people aren't just being constantly swapped around and spammed with this number one, number two, number three thing. Um, but yeah, anyway, it's just bothering my brain when I'm watching it swap around to different people every 3 seconds um, on the leaderboard. um, Samix, everybody here, thank you. By the way, Samix, I did see your message, and yes, I would be happy to get together to do a video sometime. I'll get back to you soon, okay? So we can set something up through the summer. Pin the like and subscribe message, yes. I'll add join the membership club because you should do that too. You should do that too. But yes, how are we doing today? Thank you all. I definitely want to have a little bit of time to chat today. Um, just in the lead up to the Champions League final. Obviously, I think everybody's going to watch that, right? The last interesting game for a little while. Sub and tap the bell icon, guys. True. Turn notifications on as well. But yeah, make sure you like as we go here. But I really, yeah, I wanted to chat a little because there's like a lot going on. There's a lot happening. Um, but at the same time, we're a little bit stalled, and I just felt like another hour of argument over Bruno would be really, really productive for us. But it's okay. It's May 31st. The Champions League final is today. Um, yes, what I want to do is I definitely do want to do a show where I can bring in viewers and watch and all of that. So we'll figure something like that out through summer too. But regardless, we're in a little bit of a limbo here on May 31, and that's what I was kind of talking about on this morning's video that I put out earlier, because there's a lot up in the air. This one's not members only, no. There's a lot up in the. Oh, you mean like a? Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. Um, there's just a lot up in the air in terms of where we go from here on this Bruno thing. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought it's, if you remember, like a couple weeks ago, um, not a couple weeks ago, a week ago, I swear to God, it just feels like it's been forever. A week ago, I was talking when we started really pushing ahead for Mbumo, and I was thinking, why are we doing that? Like really, like I knew we wanted three forwards, but why are we doing that, right? If we're doing that, if you're pushing ahead, if you're trying to contact Mbumo, then the reason is you're going to have to give him a starting position in your team. And that means, of course, that you're pushing Bruno deeper. Now, we kind of, I had expected us to more look at like maybe some of those more affordable, cheaper options for that third number 10. But I remember looking at that and thinking the team starts to get a little bit funny and the whole strategy starts to get a little bit funny um, when you start looking at that if Bruno is staying, because then, then what does that mean for our overall transfer strategy? How do we see Bruno in this team? How does Ruben Amorim see Bruno in this team? Because if Bruno is here for Ruben, he's starting. He's starting, right? We know that. If Bruno is here, he's going to be in Ruben Amorim's first 11. But then where? But then where? Um, where are you putting him? That's my question. That's the part that is confusing me when you start kind of doing all of this. It feels like they've been kind of prepared for this potential of Bruno leaving. Um, and then it starts to make a little bit more sense. And obviously, they're going to want to be prepared for this possibility. And I feel as though, they did prepare for it, and they did put together, start making contacts and moves and things like that, and everything just in case. Um, Please tell me it's more likely Bruno goes than stays, Tubby. I mean, I think as of today, I would lean like 65% that Bruno goes. Because look, I'll give you an example of the alternative side of this. In January, Saudi approached Marcus Rashford's people, right? Saudi made an approach for Marcus Rashford and said, "Oh, Rashford leaving United? What about coming to Saudi? Rashford not having a place in the team, what about coming to Saudi?" Instantly dead because he wasn't interested. There was immediately, I mean, it took a day, maybe 2 days for that rumor to be put to bed from his side. I mean, I heard it, tons of people heard it. Marcus Rashford was not going to join Saudi because he wanted to come back and play in Europe. He wanted to stay in Europe. He wanted to regain his English squad position. And basically that's what he did, right? He followed through with that. But it was pretty much put to bed immediately. So obviously if I don't think with Portugal he won't lose his place. With Bruno, the difference is he's not going to lose his place in Portugal no matter what. He goes to Saudi, he will not lose his place in Portugal. Cristiano didn't lose his place in Portugal. Bruno is not going to lose his place in the Portuguese team. That he doesn't have to worry about that. So that won't really particularly matter. So yeah, I think that it's obviously real, this whole thing. It's obviously real, this whole thing, as a potential for something to happen that they've been looking at, that he's been looking at, and that they've been preparing for. So yeah, Neves didn't either. Yeah, exactly. Nobody in the Portuguese team, if you're in, you're in. They don't quite have as many options, but they're also a little less. I don't know. In England, it's a little bit different in terms of picking the players. They're very weird about it. I mean, you even have a less chance being picked for the English team if you're playing outside of England, much less Europe. So, I mean, it's just England is just kind of weird about that. I'm not even convinced Amorim likes him in the CM role, but he may be cautious as he must worry about replacements. Right, I agree. If you had one player to replace Bruno, who is it? Well, I don't even look at that way, because I'll tell you what I think. All right, Kaylin? Like, this is my thought on that. I think Cunha was the best Bruno replacement. when you look at how they play, what they do, the positions they take up on the pitch, Cunha was the Bruno replacement, the best one. It's also, to me, his best position. So it's more about replacing, if you're going to lose Bruno, replacing his quality elsewhere, right? And in that sense, I would say I would be yeah, you just buy more. I mean, you just buy more. You just buy more. I don't know. um you just buy more players, but so not one. But if you had to say like, okay, we got to get one player into the team with the Bruno money, I would spend it on probably Adam Wharton. Simply because I just like to have um I think it would be cool. I think it would be cool to have a player like that, Adam Wharton, or a deep midfielder like that to help balance things out. But realistically, I would spend it on like just making sure you get a better striker. But yeah, it's the summation of parts is the only way. You can't replace Bruno. We cannot replace him. We cannot replace him. Um, we cannot replace him. He is a very, very wonderful player. Um, so you don't replace Bruno. You just build a different team. You build a team in the aggregate that is different. Um, that's the reality of it. You play a different style. You play a different way of playing. We will always have to build a different team stylistically with Bruno than without Bruno, right? That is the truth. Um, it's just it's different. It's hard to explain, and I think that unfortunately as well, not unfortunately, I would say fortunately actually. Maybe it's a little unfortunate for Bruno. I don't know. But I think it's fortunate for us is that we do have a manager that his system doesn't need a Bruno and has never really had a Bruno to function. It's never needed that high volume, attacking midfielder um, in order to succeed. It's been built very different. So if we're going to make a change, we do have the right person. Like Solskjaer needed Bruno. The way he wanted to play football, he needed that number 10 like that. He needed it in his system. It would have been a joke if you had that as a manager. Um, so it's kind of an oddity because like I'll speak for example on if I speak for example on like the game we watched against Hong Kong, if you watched it, um, not reading into too much because of course it's Hong Kong, but if you do actually look at the way that the first half played versus the second half played, and I'm not saying, oh, they're so much better, see, Bruno makes us bad. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about stylistically. Stylistically, the second half is how Amrim teams are supposed to look, and the first half is not. The first half is kind of Bruno quarterbacking the team, get it up the pitch, sit around the top of the box, move it to the left, move it to the right, move it back to Bruno, type of thing, right? The second half is the runs between the different players, the one touch football. There's a lot of players who want to be on the ball a bit less. It is hard to describe it exactly, but you can see it in how people have played. You can see it in how they play. that there is a difference. I always make the comparison to basketball because it's like usage rate, like there are players that are really high. There are teams that play with like a really, really high like usage, and then there are teams that have a pretty spread out low usage between teams, between the players, and move the ball really like faster and more fluid versus one guy being more of a ball dominant player. Um, I don't know how to make the exact description of it, but it's like you want that usage a little more spread out in an Amram team. It's how it is, versus having somebody sit on it and be ball dominant in general. So it surprises me a little. Um, yeah, I don't know. Um, I don't know. It's just different. It's just different. There's plenty of teams that um don't play with that kind of. I mean, we can talk about the final tonight, right? If we talk about the final tonight in 1 hour from now in the Champions League final, none of them would buy Bruno. You do understand that stylistically. None of them would buy Bruno. Why would it? Or they could buy him right now, right? And it's not an insult on the player. It's just horses for courses. It isn't even slightly an attack on Bruno. Neither Inter nor PSG would play with Bruno in their system because it's not how they play. That's not how they play football. It doesn't actually fit them. Neither does it for Liverpool. It probably does a bit more for Pep, for sure. I don't think Inter would. I don't think Inter would like at all personally, based on how they play. I don't think that they would. But they can go buy him. They could put in an offer for him. When I look at their midfielders, I don't think that it matches. I don't think it matches their the way that they want to play. I really don't. Maybe it does for them. Um, he could play where Fabian Ruiz does. I don't think so. I do not think that people have a right read on this. Because it is very, very different. I don't think any of them play through Interwood. I don't think so. I mean, I just don't. I just don't. When I look at the way that they play, I mean, I don't want to have a huge argument about it, but I don't see that he's the same as the types of players that they use, to be quite honest. I mean, we look at what they played against Barcelona, Barella, Mkhitaryan, uh, Çalhanoğlu. I mean, maybe he could replace Mkhitaryan, but I don't know. Maybe he could play instead of Çalhanoğlu, but I'm not so sure about that. Because they just play different. They just play different type of football and have a different way of playing. Inter would convert him. Yeah, and that's fair too. That you would have to convert. You would have to convert him. But he's available. So if they want him, they can come buy him. If they want him, they could come buy him. He's only 31 years old for Serie A. He could be there. So if they want him, they could try to buy him. But they still don't even play that way. They're a lot of them don't really play that way. A lot of them play, to me, more similar to the other ways that we're doing it. But they're different styles. They're just different styles of play. There are other teams that would absolutely use him. I think that City would probably play with Bruno in their team. I think they would. They should be anyway, because if they just replaced Kevin De Bruyne falling apart with Bruno, he would make them way better, right? So it is what it is. PSG didn't want Ugarte. How's that even relevant? No, of course they won't, but how's that even relevant? I mean, it doesn't even make any sense. We're just talking about how teams want specific profiles. Teams want specific profiles. A lot of them do. The Bruno situation made me realize how bad our standards have fallen. We lost players way better than Bruno and survived. Why are we mourning a player that's been part of our two worst seasons? Well, that's fair enough. And I don't want to get into like insulting him either, because sometimes the only reason I even make like a strong argument or will try to or say something negative about Bruno is because people will make these crazy claims to me. You know what I mean? We'll make crazy claims like, again, like we that we won't exist as a football club without Bruno. We will. It's okay. But I hear you. At the same time, it's true. We have lost better players and we've moved on. But sometimes you just have to refresh. Sometimes you have to rebuild. Sometimes you have to change, and it might be the right time. But I can understand it in both ways. The thing about it is, like I say, you cannot replace him. You cannot replace him, but you don't have to. You don't have to. But it is holding things up a bit, right? It is holding things up a bit, at least in terms of our understanding of what we can do in the market, right? Um, and where he's going to play. I don't want to insult Bruno at all. I'm under the impression having 11 players who fit the system like a glove, even if their skill level is lower, result in more wins. I think so too. I mean, I think there's a limit. There's a limit. But I think that like teams can be more than the sum of their parts. Like any machine, it's more important that the parts fit together than anything else. But yeah, the idea of needing specific system players over good ones has become overblown. No, it hasn't though. It really hasn't. I don't think it has. I think it's been going this way for quite a long time. What's your thoughts on Xavi Simone's? I don't know. It's not a big deal to me on that. Um, Teams have been building based on systems for a long, 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 long time, to be quite honest. Like, I don't know, man. We've seen the other side of it, like with Madrid, but I mean, a lot of teams have built through very specific ways of profile for a long time, more than people think. But I mean, I think there's limitations to that too. But having fitting parts without a power not do anything, correct? And it's a balance of these things. Of course, your player quality has to be good enough because there's really, really teams that fit together really well that don't have good players, and that's as far as they can go. Um, so it's like fit and function, fit and power. Um, fit and power is a huge deal. Like, and if you can do both, then it's even better. Um, but a lot of times too, players fitting together means you're playing into the strength of a player. So like if a footballer is really good at a couple of things and not so good at another couple of things, and you have them doing everything, then they're a 5 out of 10. But if you can make it so they only have to do the two things they are good at, then they're an 8 out of 10. So even fitting people together well makes the quality of the players better. But that's why fitting makes the quality of the players better, because you can get people to do what they are good at and play into their strengths, and that's what gets you where you want to be. Um, how do you think the flow of Bruno money goes? Gyökeres, Mbumo, center mid? Probably that would be what it would be. But if we look at it in general, the question becomes, and this is where we're sort of stalled, a little bit at the moment without the Bruno kind of money, let's say. And I'm gonna go ahead and stick 8 in heaven here because I gotta tell you guys, like, if you want to look at examples of good deals that we've done, holy man, this kid is really, really good. He is really, really good. He is really good. He is genuinely what a good choice it was to bring him in, because I genuinely think he is ready to go. I mean, I have not seen a performance from him that where he hasn't looked like a center back that is can absolutely deal with any of the attackers out there. When we looked at it against Aston Villa, he was fantastic. Every performance, fantastic. Every performance, top. I'm saying I think he was playing when Euro wasn't or something. But obviously Lenny is better. But this to me is the way, and I think next season we'll buy a central center back. He's left-footed, so he's going to be on the left. Um, he will be on the left. He will be on the left. He will be on the left. He was on the left against Villa. He's been on the left every time when he started him already, but he will be on the left. Um, this is a good deal. He had one injury. He had one injury. That's all, and then it kind of shook him a bit. And then against Villa, he didn't get injured. It looked like he just had a little bit of pain. He ran off. He came back, and he's been playing since then. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think Maguire, De Ligt in the middle is just your normal thing, but we're going to need another central center back for sure. But Maguire is good for being in the air, but I do think we need a big central center back as well next season. But yeah, you can see that the moment that Amorim has, like the thing with Amorim to understand is like you could tell the moment Amorim has a left footer, he puts him back on the left. You know what I'm saying? Like people were saying, well, Lenny's going to be the left-sided, but the moment he's got a lefty, he sticks him right back on the left because he wants left footers in his team. You know, that's what he's looking for. So it wasn't a surprise to see that. When he had Shaw in the Europa final, Shaw started here. Euro went back to the right. As soon as Heaven came back in, Heaven's on the left, and Euro goes back to the right. It's gonna be that. I think is I don't always agree with you, and I think that Diomande is a terrible choice because I've watched enough Sporting. He's got way too many bozo moments in him. But De Bast is the best. Okay, De Bast, the best. De Bast should be the central center back we go for next summer, in my opinion. He has everything that we might need for that position. So he's one I would definitely go for. And I would stick him there. He's got all the skill set to come into the team. I would definitely get De Bast for sure. Yeah, De Bast is going to be really good. You put De Bast in there, and you have Heaven, De Bast, and Euro. You have some insanely good back three for the future with such sky high potential. I mean, they absolutely sky high potential. I'd be really really happy with that. But now you look at it, and here's where we start to get like complicated. Bozo Monday. Well, he does, but he makes so many errors. It's hard for me to look past it. So, like, every time I watch Sporting, I'm like, he makes me cringe when he's on the ball because it's just gonna be a mistake in defense or on the ball at some point, even though he has a good skill set. Tom Godsmark, welcome to the Pro Muppet. Thank you, Tom. Welcome, and thank you. But no, I like that. And if you have like De Ligt and Lissandro and Mazraoui as your options as well, then I think you have a really good squad in there. But central center back will probably deal with next season as well. I know we've been linked to Bissek, but I don't think it's a very solid source, to be quite honest. If money wasn't a problem, Jokeris or Osimhen, hands down. But yeah, look, this is where we're starting to get like things start to get confusing because we have to make some choices. If Bruno stays, I've seen plenty of games with De Bast. I watched a lot of Sporting. I like his skill set. He was newer though this season. I mean, it was only his first season at Sporting really playing, so I understand that. I've seen enough of Diomande to have made my mind up on him. But yeah, look, this is where it gets confusing because let's toss Bruno in the team, and let's say Bruno stays. Okay, then where are we today? If he plays here, then we still have to buy 2 forwards, but we don't have any money. We have 30 million available, maybe 40. Yes, Diomande makes me cringe on the ball, but not Ugarte. Yes, because they're totally different players who do totally different things. Spencer Gorley, will Bruno play the 10 if he stays? That we don't know. That's the question. That is the question. That is the question. We don't know. Is he here or is he here? Because if he's here, we don't have money. We won't buy a midfielder because we still have Ugarte, Casemiro, and Collier for the 6. And then we have Bruno and Mainu for the 8. And Ugarte has been playing the 8 a few times, plenty of times next to Prince Spence. Okay, that's you. All right, buddy. Thank you. This is the question. Then we don't buy a midfielder, then we need 2 forwards, and we don't have the money. That we don't have the money. Jonathan Ball, hello. You know, we need money. We have 30 million, but then we're talking about probably going a little bit cheaper. Kung Fu Kenny, welcome to the Pro Muppet. Got Kendrick Lamar here. Holy shit. Yeah, it's a serious question. It's not about even cheaper, it's about numbers. If Bruno is in the 8, 1 game a week, he's playing every game. So we're not going to buy anybody. Is Casemiro Ugarte the best partnership statistically? It is. I would much prefer Bruno in the 10 should he stay, for sure. No doubt about that. I would 1,000,000% prefer Bruno in the 10 because then we can raise a little money, get a top striker, right? And then with our further sales, we can get one more midfielder in this summer. And that would be fine. That would be totally fine. Is Bruno the decision 2.0 for the summer window? Yes, but at least this time, instead of it being Liam Delap, it's a player who's actually worth like thinking about and should be respected in taking his time to make his decision, not a relegated, Ipswich Hoyland, right? Give me a break. So this is it's a challenge. Like it's a challenge. We will, that this is, I think, the decision. This is where I'm getting confused. If Bruno is staying here, then we're not going for Mbumo, right? If Bruno is staying here, then we're not going for Mbumo because there's 0 chance that Mbumo comes to this team. So we're going for a cheap backup 10 and a striker. No doubt about that. If Bruno goes to the 8, then we would have to get Mount. Mount has there's. I thought maybe Mount could, but I don't think he can. I don't think he can. Yeah, I do think it's Bruno. Well, no, it could be Bruno here, and Mbumo here, and then. But it's like the amount of money. Like, just bear in mind the amount of money we need. Then is a problem. Okay, if Bruno is here, and we say get Mbumo with a little bit of sales, a little bit of the money that we need, right? Then who's our striker? For me, we're just not going to have the money. It's going to be Joshua Zirkzee. Which, I mean, I'm not opposed to this, by the way. This is a fun team for me. I actually really am. I'm so genuinely curious to see how this front 3 would look together. And bear in mind, if we did get Mbumo, we probably would see it at some point anyway. I am genuinely curious how that front 3 would work because I have serious I have a serious love affair for Joshua Xerxes and his skill set that he brings, and I really want to see him after a full preseason in this team and with some better players around him, with Cunha in the front three instead of Garnacho and Hoyland. I want to see what he can do with them because that's just something I want to see. But this is my question, right? If Bruno stays, this is potentially the route that we go down. I worry about the defense too because your six is for sure. I mean, all you have for the long term is this, and that's fine, but it's not necessarily what we want to do. And then maybe we can still get a new keeper. So this is kind of the decision. If Bruno is staying, then they will very likely push ahead on Brian and Bumo. Me and Adam McCullough. There's just something about certain players, man. I don't know what it is, but I have so much faith in my heart that Joshua Xerxes will come good. I feel like I've seen players like him, and you don't get that type of height, that type of body shape, that type of size with those types of skills and not be a damn good footballer. Like, think about the guys who are like that. You just don't, man. He's going to become a very good footballer. This is a good team for me, but I think it'll look a bit like Liverpool early doors, um, because it's going to concede goals still. It's going to be prone to counterattacks. It's going to be prone to transition goals, things like that, no matter what. But it should score some goals. It should score some goals, man. It should score some goals. I think it's a team that should do a lot better. James, a much better coach than ours, Ben Dugarte, because he can't pass wind and is a yellow card walking as much a problem as Onana and Hoyland. Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. A much better coach than ours. Yikes. All right. I don't agree with that in the slightest, but it's okay. It's okay. Don't agree with that in the slightest. It just is simply that certain coaches like certain profiles of players and certain ones don't, you know? But that would be one game a week. One game a week. This is what we could do. And it would work. So that's probably where we go with it if we don't have the Bruno money, because I don't see how we can spend more than that. Yeah, it's that simple. People just don't like midfield destroyers. That's all. It's just modern online fans don't like midfield destroyers. It's okay. Um, that's all there is to it. That's okay. Dallo would probably play plenty. With Ahmad can play up here. You could run it like this. Like, I don't know. There's different ways you could run it at times. The thing is, Mbumo plays so much that, like, yeah, but Dallo would probably play plenty as well. Ahmad could be starter, backup, rotation. There's lots of different things that you could do with that as well. Um, I didn't say anybody was dumb. I said people don't like destroyers. But yeah, I mean, this would be it. I think this is all we can do. Mainu will play. He'll be in the rotation between the 10s and Bruno. Casemiro would play. If you're knighted, what's your sell to Mbumo? Depends. Depends. Mhm. It really depends. We'll see. I mean, the some of the pitches that we still can build a very good team. Some of the pitch is, why did Cunha join us? You know, if Bruno is sold, then you have a lot more that you can do with it. If Bruno is sold, we'll have a lot more we can do with it. But it's the same sell as it ever is. The biggest sell is you can be the guy who brings United back. As much as I like this, is this all we can feasibly achieve? Then we have to sell Bruno. No rebuild without funds. Simple as that. Well, that's true, Tom. And that would be my main concern is this isn't a rebuild to me. When I look at this team, I like this team, but you're hoping that just a few more players will it'll start working better, right? That everything's going to start working better with just a few more players. And it might. And it might. But this team is not fundamentally going to change that much from what we're seeing right now, simply because you're still going to be doing a lot of the same things. With Garnacho, Rashford, Antony, and Sancho sold, we can't buy a striker. Sounds like Glazernomics. No, it's PSR, and I can do the math for you on that. Like, we have 30 million. Sancho does nothing for us particularly. He does a little, but not as much as you might think. Antony, we're not going to make any money on him, but he will free up a little bit of money for us if we can sell him, which is far from a guarantee. Yeah, you are a couple injuries away from the same team. Correct. Correct. You're a couple injuries or one rotation away. Like, let's say Cunha doesn't play one game. This is this year's team with Mbumo. It's not going to change by much. One injury, and you're playing Ahmad here and Mbumo in here somewhere, or Bruno jumps up and it goes Ugarte, Casemiro, and Dowlo plays out here, and you end up with the same team essentially as last year that will look pretty much the same, with like one better player in it. It's not a rebuild, you know. It's not that big of a deal. But regardless, yeah, we're far from guaranteed to get too much on Antony. Um, Garnacho is the biggest one. Garnacho is the biggest one. But realistically, that's going to give us, you know, maybe 70 to spend, something like that. We need 20, 30 more just to get Mbumo. So it's only going to leave us with 30 to 50 million. Like, even if we sell all those guys, we may only end up with another, after Mbumo, 60 million or something like that. That's not going to do that much for us. It may get us a striker, but by the time we make all those sales, maybe not. Again, by the time you do it, and there's no guarantees on those. I do think I think this team will be better. There's no doubt about that. Like, I'm not going to sit there and tell you this team won't be better. And this is what you could probably hope for. And then maybe with a little extra money, you're getting another 10 in, but you're getting young players then that need some time to develop and all of that. Doesn't Garnacho sale give us a lot of room in the power star? It could. Depends on how much we get. Depends on how much we sell. How much we sell him for. If we get it for 40 million or something like that, then then it's going to be a big difference. It depends. Is it 40? Is it 30? Is it 50? How much are we actually selling him for? And all of that. All the PSR talk makes me think selling Bruno is the safest option to allow our success moving forward. This team isn't changing from last year. Right. Well, that's kind of the point, right? Like, let's say you go and you do that. Actually, the 100 million actually comes in the door. All right. So instantly you have enough to get your striker, to get your top striker choice. I mean, one could argue that you're already better as a team. One could make that argument. You're already better as a team just by doing that, right? One could make that argument right off of the bat that, okay, meaning you get a striker in and you get Ederson or another midfielder in, and immediately you have a better team in the aggregate. Alfred, thank you for the gift of memberships, my friend. Gabriel, Val, Blatant, Matt, Neil, Arpit, Luke, Jacob, nope, Ali, Matthias, and Tommy. Thank you, Alfred. Appreciate that very much. Thank you very much. But immediately you do that. And you still do have more money to spend because the team has no creativity? Well, I don't want to make an argument about that, but Cunha and Mbuma are two of the most creative players in the league, just by the way, who we did not have this last season. And the creativity has to come as well through the wide areas, not the midfield. Ederson linked to Saudi. Yeah, Ederson's linked to Saudi. If they don't get Bruno, he's also linked to City as well, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Ederson's a good midfielder. And then you just need some depth. But for one game a week, it certainly helps. And then the following summer, of course, you want to fix. You just see, where are you underperforming? Where are you underperforming? You got to replace Casemiro. Maybe then you can go get Wharton. You know what I mean? But you still have money, even in this case. Even in this case, you still have. How is Mbeumo creative? Ugarte and Ederson. You really don't know who Ederson is, do you? You really like. Even if you want to criticize Ugarte, it's totally fine. But the minute you lump Ederson with Ugarte, I know you've never watched him play a game of football, because they are nothing alike. They are nothing alike. They're absolutely opposites. They're so different. It's like really funny. You could criticize Ugarte all you want. You don't like that type of player, but if the minute you lump them together, I know you're not watching. I know you are not watching Ederson if you think that. That's all I'm gonna say. Whether you like him or not, they're not even remotely similar to the same player. They're just not. But it's okay. They're an upgraded McFred. That's not totally wrong, to be fair, Jacob. That is not actually totally wrong. That's probably why I kind of like the idea of it. An upgraded McFred. I quite like that, to be fair. I mean, Ederson is actually a good goal scorer. He's a good box crasher. It's one of the things he does well. He's definitely a bit better than McTominay at certain other aspects. I kind of like that. That's probably why I like that. An upgraded McFred is actually pretty cool. I mean, a McFred carried the best United teams in the last little while. I'm okay with that. McFred done right. I kind of like that. I kind of like that. I kind of like that. Yeah, I don't know about the similarities. people say that Ederson can't play with Ugarte and then just repeat it. I don't know. It's all good. A downgrade in McFred? Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. No, but it's hard for me to have honest discussions about the midfield because too often, like someone will say I don't like Ugarte. Okay, fine, and then they'll say something else, and then you suggest someone like Ederson, and it's like same thing. No, they're not. What do you mean, man? Like then I just think people are just regurgitating stuff. There's nothing in that. But regardless, it's a better team. But you do have more money after this still. You do have more money after this still. No, Alfred, you're not wrong. You are right. Doesn't seem to want that. His teams at Sporting do not dictate tempo or progression through the midfield. They do win the ball back high, counter press high, and then dip. And the thing is that bearing in mind, where is your progression coming from in the midfield? Because I think this is actually a misconception that I may have spread accidentally a little bit too. This might be my fault. Not saying I influence all of United, but I'm talking about on my channel in terms of describing things and not describing things right. You do progress via the midfield under Ruben Amorim. However, it is because you want your 10s to drop in and make essentially a 4-man midfield. Okay? These 10s are supposed to drop in and form an additional midfield. So you have your 2 burners, your 2 ground eaters, your 2, guys who are winning the ball and attacking. And then you have these guys who are supposed to drop in a bit, receive the ball, turn out of pressure, carry it up the pitch, and pass it as well up to the wingbacks. So there is progression that comes via the midfield, but it's different. It comes through the rotations and the way that the rotations happen. One of the biggest problems we have had in a long time, for a long time, I should say, is that in this last season, for example, with the very few forwards that we have, which is why Amorim probably made the mistake of playing Mason Mount in the final, is that you have 2 outlets, with Højlund sitting up here and Garnacho sitting up here. Then you don't get the same kind of progression. Now, if you remember, if you remember don't worry, we'll just spend 250 million on Wharton and Balaba. Yeah, we'll just do that. We'll just spend 250 million on those. That's the answer. That's gonna work. Okay. Great. Well, we should just buy Valverde, Jude. Why don't we just go get Pedri instead? That's a solution. Let's just go get Pedri. That'll solve the problem. Like, fine. You give them the money then. Where's it coming from? You just make sure PSR doesn't exist and that we can go and spend 250 million on 2 players in the midfield, right? Let's do that. Let's do that. But you remember the Chelsea game right before the final. What he did was played Mason Mount in here. And everybody said, oh, damn, the first 20, 30 minutes of the game, Mount would drop in, the buildup looked good. The passes were flying from the center back into the 10s, into the midfielders. We were passing between the lines, getting up the pitch, doing all sorts of crazy shit like that. Well, and that's simply because the 10s were moving right? It was Ahmad and Mount in the 10s, and they dropped in, receive the ball between the lines straight from the center backs, even straight from the goalkeeper, and they're able to move, they're able to turn, they're able to evade pressure, they're able to one-touch football and get up the pitch. And that's what matters. And we don't have good enough players at doing that because Mason Mount doesn't, as of yet, offer enough elsewhere to make that work. It did sort of screw us because he thought, all right, with the players that I have now, I could play better, but then, it just wasn't right. It just wasn't right. But yeah, it was a challenge. Episode yeah. Episode number 650 about arguing about the midfielders. TNT talking about the beauty of Inter's back three and the wide center backs advancing the ball. Also TNT Amram. Yeah, I don't think we'll sell the women's team. I don't think that we have the type of owners that want to actually sell off United for parts. And I don't think that our fans would accept it in the way that Chelsea fans have accepted certain things that they did. But no, I mean that's alternative. We also would have more money. Balaba, Wharton, 100 million each. Yeah. At least. Especially, let's say we sell Bruno for 100 million, and then we're going to Premier League teams and saying, "Hey, we want to buy your midfielders." they're gonna charge us so much money. I do think, however, that being said, I do think that you can see with Kone, Wharton is not going to be 60 and Balaba is not going to be 70. They charged 100 million for Caicedo to Chelsea, and arguably Balaba is getting more hype than that. And Adam Wharton is going to be at least 80 to 100 million. At least 80 to 100 million. But regardless, I do think Kone, I've watched him on a few times, and getting to see him in the preseason was nice. He is very slight, but you can see his skill set is really, 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 really tops. You can see that his skill set is really, really, really good. Where did the Wharton Balaba delusion come from in this fan base? It's probably my least favorite part of this discussing modern football is just how like every midfielder who isn't like a unicorn is bad. I'm just not there for it. Like if you're not a unicorn midfielder, you're bad, and there's only a few unicorns, so then everybody gets obsessed with them. Like I use the baseball terminology. If you're not a 5-tool player, then you're nothing. Except most teams are built on 2 and 3-tool players. It's just part of it. But I do think Coney needs a loan. But I really, really like him. His movements, his skill set is really good. He's the right guy for to me, kind of like this position. I don't think he's a deep sitter. I don't think he's like necessarily a volume ball winner. But I think he's really good. Well, it's kind of like Rodri, like Rodri came in and then he wasn't the player he is now, by the way, when he joined City. And then he became like Ballon d'Or level player, um, doing everything. But he wasn't like that at the start, and it's crazy that a guy can do that. I mean, it is. It's crazy. But like, Jimbo, 5 gifted memberships. Thank you, buddy. Thank you very much. Arindam, Lexi, Kuwain, Uyanda, and Will. But there's a lot of good teams that are winning with a bit more multi-tool players. I mean, the Inter team is a fun example of that too, right? Because it's Çalhanoğlu, right? I mean, there's not a team outside maybe Barella who are like, I don't know, man. Like none of those players would have been called elite 2 years ago. Not a single one. Maybe Barella, but I mean, aside of them, I don't think they would have been considered that way. But yeah, anyway, it is all good. But even Vitinha, right? Even Vitinha was not the same player at Wolves, was he? You told us Hoyland was good when he was signed. What do you mean? I was far from the person hyping up Hoyland the most. I mean, there you can go find most of the tacticos on Twitter were calling Hoyland the next level player. They're the same guys that most people are regurgitating their opinions now, and that's fair. But there's a lot of people who have a lot of tweets to delete on Rasmus Hoyland and how much they hyped him up. I don't get every opinion right, certainly. That being said, I thought Hoyland was a 40 to 50 million player, and that's what we would get out of him. Um, but I also think, as bad as he is now, it's just another example of why we should, in no circumstances, buy young strikers to lead the line because they all fail. And after doing more research, who knows, man? Who knows? Um, my arch nemesis are the Twitter tactics. No, because it's like all I'm saying, the reason it always kind of cracks me up is I'll sit here and I'll argue all the time about stuff. But I'm here, I'm front up to all my opinions. You can find all my takes, all my everything on here. And the thing about it is, um, most people out there are so insulting about players, you know? They're so insulting about things because and then they're suggesting they want their own. One different approach that I take personally that you will notice, and I do want to point it out, I don't think I know better. What I do is look at who are the experts looking at and try to understand that. Because I don't believe I know better than the people at the club. That's not true of a lot of people online. That's the Dunning-Kruger aspect of it. People with some knowledge who then accelerate it into thinking they know better than the experts because they know a little. This is that you look up that Dunning-Kruger effect. This is what we see in football discourse is probably the most hilarious example of it in history, where it's so noticeable that people get a bit of knowledge, a bit of study, they learn the game a little bit, and then they think they know better than everybody else, the experts and all involved, right? And that's what happens in football discourse very often. I don't, if you'll notice, by the way, I never discuss players in detail that United aren't looking at. I don't do this thing where I'm going to pull up 55 players from different leagues and say that guy's going to be the next star for United, and if we don't sign him, then we're shit. You know what I mean? I don't do that, and I never will. Because what the fuck do I know? Honestly, I know that I don't know, you know? So genuinely speaking, I look at what the club are doing and try to understand it. I look at what a manager is actually doing and try to understand it. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, doesn't matter. But I don't go and pick up a bunch of names and then say that guy's going to be a star because whatever, and that if we miss him, it's a joke. Like, I don't talk about Balaba because we've never really been linked to Balaba. So why would I talk about him? He's obviously someone they're not thinking we can get or that we need for whatever reason. I think they know a lot more than I do about this. Now, there were times that was probably not the case, and I think that's part of the holdover. We did not have experts in the past at Manchester United at all. We didn't. We didn't have experts at United at all, and we were signing based on Woodward's feelings. But you want to know this? The funny part about this? All right, I'll give you. Here's the sad truth. Okay. Here's the sad truth. Ed Woodward knew more about football than most people on Twitter. He lived it. You can say he didn't. He lived it. That's what it looks like when a Twitter tactico goes and runs United's transfers. Ed Woodward did it. He would sit there and play Football Manager on the train from London to Manchester and pick players for us to sign. That's what people on Twitter are doing. That's what people on Twitter are doing. Ed Woodward is a Twitter tactico who ended up being in charge of Manchester United's transfer business. That's what he did. So, we've already seen it. We've already seen it. Now we have actual experts, people who've actually got a history, who've played the game, who've built teams, who've done all of that. Okay? So I'm positive those people have. Oh yeah, he played Football Manager. Yes, he did. I can tell you that. you know, So that's what happened. And it was also Joe Glazer too, right? But I just think it's funny. That's all I'm saying. I think it's funny. So I really like to just look at all of this. And I think it's funny. I just think the whole thing is funny. It was not better than this. We are here because of this. Ed Woodward and the Glazers drove the club towards financial bankruptcy. You understand that? They drove them towards financial bankruptcy with their spending. They just kept borrowing from the future, borrowing from the future, borrowing from the future, borrowing from the future. That's why we are where we are, where we have to sit here and say we might have to sell our best player to be able to sign a team, to be able to sign players that we want. That's his fault. That's his fault. That's why we're having this discussion today. That's what happened. That's where we are. That's the long-term consequences of everything that happened, right? And it created an amazing. And the Super League was going to bail them out. The Super League was their bailout. The Super League was their, hey, this is how we're going to get out of this mess by getting enormous amounts of money coming in to bail us out of this absolute disaster of a thing. We are still dealing with, when we're talking about the players we need to sell, when we're talking about the reasons we can't spend money, it's the same contracts. Anthony wasn't all Woodward, by the way, but Anthony wasn't, look at the players we're selling when you're talking about the new versus old management. Woodward or Arnold, two peas in the same pod, two peas in the same pod. There's really no difference between the two of them. I actually think Woodward cared a bit more, by the way. I actually think Woodward cared a little bit more, but that's neither here nor there. Sancho, Anthony, Rashford, maybe Garnacho, I don't know. Casemiro, all the deals that we're stuck with, everything that we're still dealing with has come before. Those are the biggest things. Woodward would have had Osimhen to lower his wages already. No, he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have. He would have paid $450,000 a week to Osimhen, billed him as the second coming of United, sold off whatever we needed to make it happen, borrowed $200 million from the credit line to do it, and then in a year from now, when he wasn't in the job anymore, we'd be at minus 200. We'd be screwed. We'd be in PSR violation and back to, looking for investments. This is the forward. This is the lack of forward thinking that we've had for such a long time. But anyway, it spiraled off. My original point. Anyway, yeah. My original point was I think that people always think they know better, but they overlook all the times that they're wrong. I don't. I look at it and say, I'm not picking these players. I'm not going to suggest that, I'm not going to pick them. I'm looking at who are they linked with, who do they like, who do they want the most, why does that make sense to me? If it doesn't work, then they did a bad job, But I think we have a much better chance of success listening to the people who actually know than people who think they know. And that's where the arguments go kind of crazy. Why does Amram invert? I think you're saying Amram invert the CCB. I actually did a whole video explaining that, by the way, one time. If you want, by the way. I did explain it actually. I think it was in one of the big up ones. I actually explained it because you could see it in a few of the games in the way that the system lines up, that it essentially just occupies another defender and opens up space on the other side. That's all. It's just a tactic. It actually has a potential advantage if it's done right, but it does require players to do better. Chelsea badge. But anyway, yeah. So I feel like I meant to talk a lot about a few more things, but you could check out today's video in the morning because the game is about to kick off for the final. So I don't think people are going to want to sit here. I won't be doing a watch along. I got to go coach in an hour. So I'm going to watch some of it and then go do some coaching. And I will miss, unfortunately, some of the end of the game, which is poorly scheduled in my opinion. Not the game itself. They shouldn't have changed it for my, under eights coaching, but for for the coaching, this little coaching thing should have changed. But regardless, the video this morning I did mention some alternates to Mbumo. If we decided, let's say, to keep Bruno and prioritize a striker, then who are some alternatives that we could get in these types of positions? Kang In Lee, Dorgelis, who knows? There's other options there. I watched some. I talked about some of those this morning, so you can go check that out. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me and burning this hour together of fun discussion. Again, I appreciate you guys, all of you. Thank you for all the gifts from everybody, from the people who are, whether you sit here and argue with me as much as you want or not, but still do so. Just understand that if you're doing that, then that's fine. You can appreciate the argument, the discussion. You're here. There's people who gift memberships, who do all of that, and you sit here and argue with me all the time. That's totally fine. It's all good. I like most of you. I don't like some of you. That's okay as well. I appreciate you being here. Enjoy the game. Like the video on your way out, and I'll see you guys later. Okay. Have a good one.